Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be stepping into the historic best of one queues with a favourite archetype of mine, which I don't think I've actually showcased. I've done a little bit of a enchantment mid-range, which looks kind of similar to this deck, but this is all in on kind of Enchantress style things. So for those who don't know what Enchantress is, it's basically an enchantment matters strategy built around lots of card draw, lots of ramp, and then payoffs like the Sigil of the Empty Throne or Archon of Sun's Grace. So let's get into what we're looking at here. First off is the engine pieces of the deck. We've got Citescent Champion, a 3-mana 1/3. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you grow Citescent Champion, you get to draw a card. Satyr Enchanter is a 2-of in here as well, does roughly the same thing except for this one does not grow, and its trigger is on the cast instead of on an ETB like Constellation for the Citescent Champion. So there's pros and cons to both, but I prefer the Citescent Champion just because it ends up being a big beating threat at the end of the day. And honestly, sometimes you just don't actually want the enchantment you're casting to resolve, as you'll see in some of today's games. It's more about the baiting of a counter spell and things like that. So I think Citescent Champion's just that little bit better and works just a little bit more with Elspeth Conquers Death on the Chapter 3 there. The other win-con side, our engine piece, is going to be a mixture between Archon of Sun's Grace, a 4-mana 3/4, we're going to have 4 copies of this one, flying lifelink, gives Pegasus creatures you control lifelink, and it has Constellation, so whenever an enchantment ends the battlefield, you create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token, which will have lifelink. And then we got Sigil of the Empty Throne as well, a 5-mana enchantment that says whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So there's a difference between some of these. This one's on a cast trigger again, like the Satyr Enchanter, and then this one's on an ETB. In the case of Sigil of the Empty Throne, this one's a 3-of because it's a little bit more expensive than Archon, and on its own does not deal any damage, needs to be kind of helped along the way. So I'm going to favour the Archon most of all, but Sigil does actually run away with the game. And we've got our ramp to get to it as well. We've got Wolf Willowhaven and Gift of Paradise both adding additional mana to our lands that we enchant, being enchantments themselves, so triggering the Archon, Sigils, Citescent Champions, and Satyr Enchanters. Other than that though, we've got a mixture of removal and filtering as well. So Elspeth Conquers Death, Banishing Light, and Prism Realm as our removal spells. Elspeth Conquers Death obviously being the highest impact one here, getting to exile a creature, or a permanent, on the Chapter 1 with Convert Mana Cost 3 or greater, which is a lot of the threats in Magic right now. So you don't typically have to worry about the lower mana cost threats, because we've got things to do to stop that kind of thing later down the line. If we're up against control, the Chapter 2 is relevant, but most of all, you want to make sure that you get value on the 1 and 3 chapters here, and we definitely do with Chapter 3, since we've got plenty of creatures to reanimate. We've got Archon of Sun's Grace, Citescent Champion, and Satyr Wayfinder, all of which are going to be relevant, but on the off chance that we don't have any of them, we do have Nessian Wanderer and Nyx Fleece Ram. Kind of do a thing. So as long as we can get value on the Chapter 3, this is a good card to run. Honestly, you want this to be at least good on 2 chapters, otherwise I wouldn't bother running it, even though it is pretty good as a removal source. But yes, as for things that are lower than 3 mana cost, we can use Banishing Lights and Prism Realms. Banishing Light's getting rid of all permanents, Prism Realm only getting rid of creatures or planeswalkers, but it does have the added bonus of scrying. Banishing Light obviously just being a little bit better, being a little bit more versatile. But for the real early game to stop like mono red, we have Nyx Fleece Ram, a 0/5 that gains life at the beginning of our upkeep. It's going to block most of our opponent's threats. Then we also have Nessian Wanderer as well, a 1/3, which should be able to block a lot of early game stuff. And whenever enchantments enter, it thins the deck of lands and increases our draws. We do have Gift of Paradise gaining life against that mono red deck as well. So there's a lot of stuff here that we can use to beat mono red. Like even one of our win cons, Archon, makes life linking tokens. So if we can get up to an Archon and then drop down a load of enchantments, we should be able to win against mono red that way as well. But obviously there are going to be some of those occasions where mono red just has all it needs and Ember Cleaves you as soon as it can possibly do it, and you probably just lose being too slow. But yeah, other than that though, the mana base pretty much speaks for itself. We're running most of the dual lands that we can run in Historic, Sun Petal Grove, Temple Garden, and Temple of Plenty. Temple of Plenty being the Scryland. Nice balance of plains and forests here, because we have a nice balance in our deck. Fable Passage too thin to grab said basics, and then Field of Ruin against the Field of the Dead decks, which we shouldn't have too much of an issue with, because we kind of do our own Field of the Dead-esque thing anyway, except for we get 2/2s with lifelink and flying, so ours are slightly better. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the deck tech. Hopefully you enjoy. If you do, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe as well if you enjoy this kind of content. Any kind of engagement really helps out the channel a great deal. Any support whatsoever is very much appreciated. Alright, without further ado, let's get on with it, shall we? This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button below the video, or check out the Patreon link down in the description below. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, first game of the day and all that lovely input lag that goes with it. This hand is interesting. It's jam-packed full of removal and delay tactics, but it doesn't have any card draw. No champion, no enchanter. It's a tough one, honestly. I can actually see myself keeping this one off the Temple of Plenty, and we've got like Nyx Fleece Ram. If it is an aggro deck, we've got all the time in the world to work against it. I'm sure Jace and Bit of Blossom sleeves suggest otherwise, but if it's like not aggro, then likelihood is the Banishing Light and Prism Realm are going to be pretty decent, so I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to see what's going on. And I guess, do we actually lead with Temple? Because if I lead with Temple and go Fabled Passage, I ruin that Scry just a little bit. Interesting one. I could see myself thinning first. Then again, do I just want all the lands in the world? We want 3 lands, so I guess I'm going to go with the Fabled Passage. And we will crack it for green, I think. Just so we got the green-white for next turn, in case we draw a Wolf Willow Haven. Alright, so what's our opponent playing? What's the verdict? Breeding Pool untapped. Please, for the love of God, do not be Simic Flash. I do not want to play against goddamn Simic Flash. Well, looks like it might be. This is an Opt or a Spectral Sailor. If it's Sailor, it's likely to be Flash. If it's Opt, could be all sorts. Could be an Unsummon, I guess. I doubt it, though. Opponent passing. So it wasn't Opt, because there's no reason you don't Opt there. I don't think there's any reason you don't Spectral Sailor. So it has to be like an Unsummon and they don't really care to bounce Nyx Fleece Ram. Weird. Alright, well, I'm just going to slap out another Nyx Fleece Ram, see if it gets quenched. Perhaps. So let's it go. Alright, well, Temple, show me an Enchantress. That is not an Enchantress, so that goes in the trash. If it's not Citizen Champion or Satyr Enchanter, I'm not really that interested in what it could be, because we've already got our payoff card anyway, in theory. It was an Unsummon, okay. But they didn't want to use it the first time, which is interesting. Ghost Quarter. So, yeah, it does look like it's almost certainly going to be Flash. We're going to play the Plains first so that we can play around Quench for what it's worth, which is not much, but if you can play around it, you probably should. Unless we want to use it as bait to try and have our opponent have less counter spells to increase the odds of Sigil or Elspeth Conquers Death actually resolving. I think we're all good, though. Ugh, they got the horrible forests. The Minecraft forests. You can't tell me this isn't Minecraft. Look at it. Look at them Minecraft trees. They're just slightly short of just being full-on cubes. We're going to pass the turn. I don't want to throw a Sigil out into an obvious counterspell. We can fight over Banishing Lights and whatnot later. So yeah, opponent is playing Simic Flash. They're all about that fun. So we're going to lead off with a Banishing Light here, I think. Ooh, that's pretty good. We'll crack that now. Grab a Plains. I think we got enough green for this all-white hand. Thank you very much. Almost out of basics, actually. Alright, so we're going to lead off with the Banishing Light first, and the reason for that is that the second card we play is going to be the Prism Realm, and this actually has an attached scry to it, so it's just much better. So we're going to fight over this one. Maybe our opponent has another Sabotage, which would be totally fine, because we can block this board. And then our third option is Elspeth Conquers Death for the Nightpack Ambusher, which is pretty high impact. I'm just making more 3/3s, which are going to be 2/2s if we keep fighting. Give me a good card. It's a pretty good card. We could go Greed Play. And go for the Citizen Champion. I'm actually not too against that, because we do want either of these other two cards to resolve more than this champion, I think. And if this champion does resolve, then we got that value anyway. Alright, so they have the Frilled Mystic. It's always safe to assume if your opponent has cards in hand, they have counter magic. It's just a case of, do they run out of counter magic first? Okay, so we're going to block and block. And the reason we're not blocking the Nightpack Ambusher is because if they flicker in another one, then it becomes a 5/5, and we lose our next Fleece Ram, which means we can't block with it later down the line. We are gaining 2 life a turn as well, so we can afford to take that little bit of a beating. Alright, so we got Field of Ruin. Which is fine, I suppose. We don't really want our opponent building up this board anymore, so I'm going to take my chances that they don't have a counter spell here. I got to imagine they do, because they just never don't. And then we're going to try and take out the Nightpack Ambusher with this one. We've now got We got Chapter 3 online with this to get Citizen Champion back as well. And it's not really a card you want to bounce. So Brazen Borrowers and whatnot are not going to be too effective. Still at 23 though, so I'm quite happy with where we're at. Opponent is trying to tempo us out, and the fact that it's this far into the game without them actually getting us below our starting life total bodes really well for us. So we're going to pass the turn. Opponent can flash in another Nightpack Ambusher, no doubt. It is a Brazen Borrower, okay. So that's 3 in the air. We are blocking 5 on the ground, so it's not too bad. So we go boop and boop. It seemed like a tough decision for them there, letting this Elspeth Conquers Death resolve. But you just don't let it resolve, I'm pretty sure, so as much as they were delaying to maybe think that, suggest that they had counter magic, I don't believe that they do. I guess we can find out with this Archon. I mean, their spells are going to cost 2 more now as well, so any 3 mana counters are now 5 mana. That's their whole turn taken up. So I think we just play down Archon. They can still obviously use counter magic that's not Frilled Mystic to get this Sigil. And there's a little bit of a benefit to Sigil after the Archon. So we're going to get down the 3/4 lifelinker to block the Brazen Borrower, which it looks like our opponent can't actually counter. Pass the turn. And then next turn we've got Citizen Champion coming back to draw us a card from the Sigil. And we even make a 2/2 from the Archon as well, so that's really good. Opponent's counters are going to be back on though. Okay, so they're running everything into my board state. I don't think it's a good attack though, because now we're trading off Frilled Mystics and tokens and whatnot, so... Opponent nice. Yeah, there's nothing nice about your deck. Oh, and they're salty. Oh no. Okay, well, continue being salty, I guess. Alright, 1/1 counter. Let's go Sigil. They have counter magic. It's fine. I think we're going to win this one in the long run. Spell Pierce. I'll pay for that. Thanks. Double Spell Pierce. Absolutely fine. We 2-for-1 them. And then we'll play Temple. We're looking for any enchantment, really. I don't think we need another Citizen Champion. I think we're just fine as we are. We're just going to keep passing the turn. Yeah, double Spell Pierce. Likely outcome is that that's their last counter magic. And that they're kind of forced into 2-for-1ing themselves, because that's the best deal they can get. Alright, so we're going to gain 2 life. That's pretty good. Okay, so that's a redraw. Just love a redraw. Gaining some life as well. And a 2-2 life linker. And spend all day doing this as well, so I'm absolutely in no rush to attack. Another Citizen Champion. I mean, okay. There's not really anything they can do to punish this except for just having a counter spell, so we're going all in. I'm definitely not swinging in with the Archon, because if they flash in Brazen Borrower, I lose that little bit of advantage. And I'm definitely not running in with my Citizen Champion, because obviously the blocks aren't that great, so just going to keep passing, gaining loads of life. And eventually we will resolve a big hit card and get going. I mean, if we chain with Citizen Champions, chain enchantments together, then the Archon's just going to run away with this game as well. This is like mini Sigil, so this is totally fine. Only thing at this point we've got to worry about is decking ourselves, because I'm unsure that our opponent can ever win this game. Unsummon my Archon. Okay, so they can counter that, I guess. That's fine. We're looking for a high impact enchantment then to follow this up with, because we'll lead with this, it'll get countered if they have one. And then hopefully we get to drop a Sigil or an Elspeth Conquers Death. Alright, so gain 2 life, up to 27. Casual life total. You get Satyr Enchanter. I mean, I could lead with that, see if they want to counter that. That's the one that I don't really care about resolving. We're still playing around Quench and Spell Pierce. And they've got an Essence Scatter. Okay. Totally fine. No attacks. So they got 42 cards, I got 39. We're actually not that far ahead of them on cards. We will be just as soon as we find an enchantment. We now have a cast trigger enchantment as well, so in that sense, Satyr Enchanter's a little bit better. Though I'm more interested in maybe getting some Citizen Champions to be a lot more huge than our opponent's got. So we're just going to block here. Absolutely trading a 2-2 for a 3-1. Gain some life, hope for a good draw. I mean, we've still got a fair few bad draws. Banishing Light is not one of them. So, Banishing Light, draw a card. If this resolves, we draw 2 more. Well, we're hoping it resolves, because Nessian Wander's not a great card. So, I'm not going to get rid of the Frilled Mystic, because if they've got Brazen Borrower, then Frilled Mystic becomes a counterspell again. So I'm just going to get rid of the Spectral Sailor here. Could get rid of the token, I suppose, because it just never comes back. But I got to imagine... Nope, never mind. I should never imagine. I was going to say, I've got to imagine that one of the 2 cards we draw is another enchantment. But that's too much to ask an enchantment deck for me, I guess. Alright, just keep passing. Until we've got absolutely dominating board states, I just don't really care to attack at all. Night Pack Ambusher, yeah, sure. I still have the better board state than you. And they're on top decks. Come on, enchantment. It's not like this deck to not have something to do, but I guess if you're constantly countering my spells, then that's just exactly what's going to happen. Alright, so what is effectively a 2-mana enchantment? Draw a card. Got another enchanter. Alright, not going to play that because I don't have a Death Wish. It's definitely one way to lose the game. We get Sunpelt Grove from the Nessian Wanderer. More lands, and more lands. Wowee. Have we got any basics left? I actually don't know. I'm just going to play the Sunpetal Grove. And yeah, just going to keep passing. It's going to keep on going. Brineborn, Cutthroat, sure. So I'm looking for like Banishing Light to get rid of Nightpack Ambusher just to make these wolves that little bit smaller. Or a Sigil. Sigil be basically game winning. As long as that card right there isn't a counter spell. Well, we get an Archon. Is what it is, I suppose. It's an attacking creature at least. And then we'll play... Do we know what's on bottom? There's one Citizen Champion. I don't really want that Citizen Champion, so I'm not going to shuffle it in with a Fabled Passage. Pass the turn. Still at 36, so we can take a hefty beating. 37 to our 29. Now we're heavy on them for card advantage. But we're starting to thin out all the bad cards. We've really hit a huge land pocket and a non-enchantment pocket, so... Why stop now? Okay, Nessian Wanderer, sure. Play Field of Ruin, and I guess we can start swinging in with Archon of Sun's Grace now. I doubt they've got double Brazen Borrower. So let's start picking apart their life total. And gaining too much life for this Nightpack Ambusher to actually matter. Best draw, probably Elspeth Conquers Death or Sigil of the Empty Throne now. Elspeth Conquers Death is probably the best one though, because we can get rid of this Ambusher, which is getting kind of annoying. Alright, what are the odds that we don't draw an enchantment again? Pretty damn high. Okay, continuing on, shall we? Let's swing in for another 3 points. Wowie. Nice. I know, right? I know. And then, you know, it's a blocker. That's how I'm going to see this one. Maybe I give my opponent something to do. Yep, sure. Alright, there's less information I have to worry about. Essence scatters. Not a big deal at this point. I didn't really even want the Enchanter around. Okay, so we're going to assume they have a Nightpack Ambusher with an attack like this, so let's play around them all being 4/4s. I think that's totally fine. I mean, we don't really care about these guys all that much. I think I'm fine with that. These are fine blocks. And, I mean, to be honest, that's a fine block. Becomes a 4/4, that's totally okay. Yeah, this just seems like a I give up attack, to be honest. Maybe they want to get rid of some of my creature board. I don't particularly care about the creatures I've lost. They're thinning lands out of my deck and I've only got 8 left, and... Come on now. I can't really get that unlucky, can I? Elspeth Conquers Death. Fantastic. So we draw a card. We make a 2/2, we draw 2 more cards if it resolves, and we get rid of the Nightpack Ambusher. Nice. It is fantastic, Andros. Absolutely fantastic. So we're going to get rid of the Nightpack Ambusher. We're going to give our opponent the good old nice, because they've been so kind as to share them with us for this whole time. 3/3s become 2/2s. Got some Rams. So we're going to go with Gift of Paradise, draw another card, make another 2/2, and then draw another 2 when this resolves, which the last one did, so this one should. Getting towards the end of our deck now. Give me a Sigil so we can close this out real quick. Banishing Light. Okay, that's fine. Get rid of one of these Cutthroats. It's a shame we don't have like a detention sphere kind of effect. Get rid of Cutthroat, reset that. Build up an aggressive board of flyers. There's Nessian Wanderer. I've got 17 cards. I'm just going to keep going. This is probably the last one, though. I'm not going to go too crazy. We got all the lands out of our deck, though. Look at that craziness. Still going, eh? Alright. Thinking. Okay. And we'll just keep going. Where? I ran out of counter magic. Where? My deck's not working anymore. Oh. Boo-hoo. Tempo. Boo-hoo. Alright, there's Sigil. Got 11 cards left. Let's just play a tempo. Another Archon? Sure. Alright. Okay. We're swinging with everything. I don't care if they pump this cutthroat. They're not going to kill my champions either, so, you know. We've got them next turn. Brazen Borrow, my Archon. Absolutely, totally fine. What about the rest? If anything, I'd like them to kill my card advantage. Because really, realistically, I don't think we really want to be playing more enchantments. Being this low on cards. But they're at 4, so realistically, we also just don't have to. They need mass bounce here. I need to see a River's Rebuke from them, otherwise they're just wasting their own time. Alright, Temple Garden, Forest, Fabled Passage, Nessian Wanderer. You're at 4. Lethal in the air. We're at 48. I'm pretty sure you can't 48 me. Even though you do have 18 points of damage on ground right now. Which is quite impressive, but not for this late in the game. When you're dealing 18 damage to a person on 48 life and 11 cards left in their deck, you're not doing too great. 34 to my 11. It's pretty good. And now we get roped. For the whole world to see, I guess. I mean, just look at the state of this graveyard. Just look at the state of it. There's no way I can feel bad for my opponent after they've done this to me. Oh, also, all of them as well. They're in there. Oops. It's Yoga. Oh, I don't like to mock my opponents, but every now and then, they deserve it. Oh. The first offense was playing our opponent's deck. I'm willing to let that go. I do, on the occasion, enjoy the tempo strategy. The second offense was getting really salty and just emote spamming me. And you know what? I joined in on the fun. And emote spammed them back. Third offense is roping me, and now I officially don't feel bad about anything that's happening to them right now. In fact, I'm quite enjoying it. It's quite a pleasurable experience. So thanks, opponent. Good game. And then, oops. You hover the Elspeth Conquers Death. That was an oops moment when you let that resolve. And, it's just nice. Yep. Oh, you let those tokens build up. That was an oops moment. So I'm gonna give you an oops for that one. I'm gonna stop now. I'm starting to like turn to the dark side, I think. I feel a little bit like a dick for doing this. Oh, they're making me feel bad about their defeat. Good game. Yeah. Usually if our opponent does this as well, if they quite clearly rope, like they're hanging around, not doing anything intentionally, I will report them to Wizards. But you know what? I'm sorry that it happened to your opponent, but I won. And I guess you should feel bad about that. Let's move on to the next game. Alrighty then, we're in, and this looks like a pretty good hand, honestly. The only thing it's really missing is removal, but we've got early game aggro defense with Nyx Fleece Ram gaining us lots of life. We've got the Citizen Champion for the card advantage, and then we have two big Sigil-esque win cons, one of them actually being Sigil. So it's pretty good. I think I'd trade one of these, though, for a Banishing Light or a Prism Realm, honestly, but, you know. Can't look a gift horse in the mouth. This is a pretty good hand. Omen of the Sea. Currently mono blue. I have no idea what this could be. Maybe a Mana Screwed Jeskai Fires or Control deck. I don't know what runs Omen of the Sea these days. It's like blue-white control, right? Which means this hand's not very good. I mean, we did draw the Banishing Light, so... in that sense, it's okay. I mean, maybe it's just pure mono blue. Maybe it's counter magic day today. If they are all about them counter magics, I don't see them playing anything here. Kiora, okay. Alright, opponent. I'm picking up what you're putting down. So do we go with Satyr Enchanter, which has a cast trigger? I think we do. I think I'd rather have the cast trigger than the ETB with a pump on it. Just in case this is all counter magic, our opponent's now resolved something, and what we want to do is Kiora whatever they play, which could be like a blue Cavalier. Surge Mare. Can't be blocked by green creatures. Okay. But yeah, we absolutely want to go after that Kiora if we can.
Ocean surges, life thrives.
Life thrives. Thank you, Kiora. Oh, I do love a little bit of a squelch from time to time. I don't know why Kiora just turned into like a posh lady aristocrat, but it's her undoing. Maybe she is. Maybe she just stayed in the bath too long. I've heard them stories. You know? Alright, so let's go with Banishing Light, I guess. Just take out the Kiora. It seems like an important strategy to their deck, right? I mean, your Kiora not taking advantage of the passive by playing a Surge Mare is very weird. But I just don't see other alternatives except for maybe getting greedy. I don't know if I necessarily want to get greedy. In fact, like Banishing Light can draw me a card which could be a land, which really benefits me. Let's get rid of Kiora. On the off chance they have a 5-drop and no land in hand, that's probably what we want to be doing. Okay. I just hope we draw a land off the top. Typically, I think you can get away with one card draw effect. 2's kind of ideal, because you want one enchantment to be replaced with another, and you increase your odds of doing that, obviously, by drawing 2 cards instead of 1. Alright, so this is mono blue. Looks like mono blue Devotion. With the Tempest Shins and the Surge Mares all being all blue pips, that seems relevant. If that's the case, what am I looking out for? What should I worry about? I should have an answer to Nyx Lotus at some point. That's kind of a thing to look out for. So I'm going to go Temple. I don't know if I want this. I think I'd rather have a land, because I'm going to go Citizen Champion here. I don't really care too much about the Tempest Shin. I think while I only have one removal spell in hand, I should really save that for a high-impact card, like Nyx Lotus being able to untap and make like mass mana for Gadwick or something like that. So now I'm going to draw 2 cards off the Banishing Light if I play it, which could hit me a land, which then allows me to play Nyx Fleece Ram. Something like that is the plan, at least. I could even see myself going Sigil next turn, depending on the lines of play here. Alright, so they're going to go with Surge Mare, and I'm just going to block it with Nyx Fleece Ram. This thing has to deal combat damage to an opponent to draw a card and discard. So they'd have to literally kill Surge Mare in the pursuit of getting it past a Ram. So it's a bit of a waste on their part there. Unless they had some pump spell I'm not aware of. Oh wow, they've scryed. Okay, come on, off the top. untapped land. Anytime you could flood out, it's right now, because honestly, this hand's fine. This hand is flood proof. I could draw lands for a long time and be okay, I think. Come on, land. Well, it's a Nessian Wanderer. She's not ideal, but it does allow me to get land drops here. So Satyr Enchantress is going to draw me a card, get Sunpetal Grove, which is fine. Then Nessian Wanderer triggers, allows me to look at the top cards and see if we can draw a land from among them, and we did. We even got all 3 lands. Remember when I mentioned that flood? I was being a little bit sarcastic, but that's fine. Alright, we're going to swing in for 4. Start pressuring our opponent's life total. If they're going to swing, I'm going to swing back. There's Nyx Lotus with an X7 Devotion, so we cannot allow that to untap specifically. So we're going to drop down a Banishing Light right now on that one. Let's check the bottom of our deck. There's a Nessian Wanderer in the bottom 3. So I don't know if I want to use my Fabled Passage, because I don't really want that card. You should always check the bottom of your deck before you crack a Fabled Passage, because although you are thinning lands out of your deck with a Fabled Passage, you're also introducing cards that are towards the bottom, and if you don't want them cards, then you're not really helping your draws all that much. Okay, so if I'm going to go Banishing Light, it doesn't really leave me with much here, unfortunately. But I can draw into a 3-drop off the Enchanter or the Citizen Champion, so that's totally fine. So get rid of Nyx Lotus right now. Whiff on the Wanderer, that's totally fine. We've got a million lands already. And our opponent's had enough. Okay. Alright, pretty solid stuff. I think our opponent needed that Nyx Lotus to actually get back into this game. They probably had a Gadwick in hand and they were hoping to, what would it be? X9? X10 perhaps if they got a land drop, so drawing 10 cards with Gadwick. It's going to be a Thassa's Oracle win con basically, so they're all about drawing their entire deck and untapping that Nyx Lotus. There's probably a Thassa in there somewhere as well, so they can flicker things like the untapping 1/2 artifact for 2 mana. Can't remember its name, but it's a little cutie, let's put it that way. But yeah, I think we've got time for one more game, so let's go. Alrighty then, we're in, and I think we can take this hand. We've got Nessian Wanderer on 2, which is somewhat of a Enchantress-esque effect. It's going to draw us the lands we need to get up to our top-end cards, at least. So yeah, I think Nessian into Gift of Paradise, into Archon, into Elspeth is definitely a nice enough line to take. It's all going to depend on the matchup, of course, as to whether it ends up being good, but got a nice early blocker. Some life gain, so, you know, we're pretty good against the aggro decks at the very least. And Banishing Light gives us a little bit of game against the control decks. Another Elspeth Conquers Death. Could be pretty good. We're going up against, like, black-white vampires, so I might want something a little bit earlier. Honestly, like a Nyx Fleece Ram doesn't even sound the worst. But I can play this card probably quite effectively, and I'm likely to have removal for like Archon, so we're going to be reanimating. Yeah, go for it. I'm not sure on that one, but we're going to see how it goes. So, opponent in Abzan. Okay. Maybe it's a Kethis deck then. Yeah, it looks like it. Ephemia. Alright, so a little less aggressive than I first thought it would be, but that's okay. As it currently stands, if they wanted to flip the Legion's Landing, it's going to cost them a creature, but we are going to Banishing Light the Kethis, I think. Got a Temple Garden, wonderful. So let's get rid of the cost reduction on Kethis. Definitely want to be doing that. It gets rid of the possibility of Legion's Landing ramping. And we get Fabled Passage, cool. So they can't flip Legion's Landing, and they don't get the cost reduction on Kethis, so if they've got a very expensive hand, then we could punish them that way. Got their own Fabled Passage. So like I said in previous games, we want to check the bottom of our deck before we crack the passage, just to make sure that there's nothing on the bottom that we don't want to draw. But obviously, it is that early in the game that we're not actually going to hurt ourselves. In fact, it's only going to help us to cast the Fabled Passage in this particular case. Alright, so Euphemia gets in. She can only exile enchantments to make 2/2s, so... yeah, they're going to have to Legend Rule a Legion's Landing. Which is very interesting. Alright, so now we're setting up a situation where there are no good blocks, or no good attacks for our opponent. Because we're going to get that Archon of Sun's Grace down. Let's grab a Forest, I guess. Archon of Sun's Grace comes down. She'll start making 2/2s, but also just blocks Euphemia quite nicely. And then if we get to drop an ECD, we're going to call it the ECD, because I think that sounds pretty damn cool. Then we get to take something out, hopefully. Alright, so this to me looks like just an attempt to flip Legion's Landing. So we're going to make our trades where we can. We'll take the little bit of extra damage because we get a lot of life in this deck anyway. They might have another Euphemia, honestly, which is why they're so happy to throw it out there. It's Massacre Girl, okay. That's fine. Guess what? Our next play lines up wonderfully. It's not the best hit in the world. I mean, it's only a 4/4, but it is a 4/4 and we're on 16, and we've got the Reanimator target for the third chapter there as well, so honestly, we're really happy with this. Should they remove it, we got another one as well. So let's get rid of Massacre Girl. They're on one card. I have the card advantage, and these cards actually count as card advantage as well. As close as one can get to it anyway. Alright, so our opponent's spells are a little bit more expensive. We're going to go Cetizen Champion. Oh, Cetizen Champion. I like Cetizen. Because I'm common as muck. Alright, stick a Gift of Paradise on the plains to hopefully draw a card. Now the engine is going. We're gaining life. Gaining cards. We've got all the ECDs we need to beat our opponent here. And they're making 1/1s. Likelihood is that if they're playing a Kethis deck, that they've got a lot of expensive cards to take advantage of this cost reduction. Gonna block here just fine. We've got ECD bringing stuff back, so yeah, they can Oath of Kaya, absolutely fine. I'm perfectly okay with the bait, honestly. We're just gonna go with... I mean, we've got a decent enough hand already, so I think I'm just going to go with the Archon and build a board. Counter, please. And then we'll play Sigil with the plan to ECD later down the line. Temple, Wolfwillow Haven's absolutely fine. Alright, so 6 points in the air. We've got reanimated targets for both the Archon and the Cetizen Champion later down the line. Pre-combat, before Settle the Wreckage is potentially a thing, we're going to trigger the Sigil so that we've got a lethal attacking force on the way back. We can even ECD their Oath of Kaya just so that we can get that triggering and going. But yeah, opponent doesn't stand a chance. Wow, 3-0 today, and they were really easy wins. This deck is pretty sweet. I absolutely love this archetype, though. It's probably one of my favourite styles out of Legacy as well. To try out. Just slap down card draw and just play all the enchantments in the world. This one's kind of a little bit of a control variant as well, running a whopping 3 Elspeth Conquers Deaths, 4 Banishing Lights, and a Prison Realm. It used to have an Ixalan's Binding in here, but I actually found it to be not entirely necessary, especially when I swapped it out for Satyr Enchanters for that extra little bit of card draw, and Nyx Fleece Rams as well for the early game. So, yeah, absolutely love this deck. Highly recommend checking it out. It is very rare heavy, though. So, yeah, going to need a little bit of a established card pool to make this one work. But as you can maybe tell, when we were playing these games, didn't really have a lot of trouble beating pretty much any deck. Also want to point out in the store as well, I don't do this very often, because usually it's just these horrible card styles, but 33% off on your boys' card style. It's my favourite. Just thought I'd make you aware. I don't know what 33% off this actually works out as, whether or not it's worth it or not, but, I mean, cosmetics are worth nothing if you don't care about cosmetics. So these are worth nothing to me. This is pretty good. I bought this one full price, I think, because it's goblins, and I love goblins. But yeah, thought I'd make you aware of that. Anyway, though, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this in the future. Don't know what we're coming back with tomorrow. Perhaps it's going to be some Brawl, perhaps maybe another Cube Sealed. I actually enjoyed that quite a fair bit, even though the rewards and paying are not the greatest in the world. But yeah, I've also got some historic decks to play around with. Lots of content coming up in the next few days, so hopefully you all enjoy it as it comes. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, leave comments down below, all that stuff. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye!